it's Nikki.
Hey, it's Eleanor.
And welcome back to the My Next Muscle podcast.
So hey everyone, it's Nikki.
It's Eleanor.
And welcome back to the My Next Muscle podcast. Today we're joined by someone who sits in the intersection of bodybuilding, coaching, and the supplement industry. Alessandro, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Alessandro is a physique coach and the man behind Templar Physique Coaching. That's your coaching business. Where he works on competitors in their training, nutrition, and the shows, but his experience in the industry goes beyond that. He's also a part of the BioX Performance Nutrition team, which is Canada's longstanding sports nutrition brands.
So he brings a really interesting perspective because he understands the industry from various sides. So he's been a competitive bodybuilder. He coaches athletes and everyday clients, and he's involved in the business and supplement side of the industry. He's been in this for a long time. So we definitely wanted to pick his brain about the trajectory of the sport. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this. Yeah. So I just decided to do a little photo shoot for my 40th, and then think I'm going to take a little bit of an improvement season and then maybe come back and do something just to kind of go out on my terms.
Oh,
Yeah.
When was the last time you competed?
2018. I was supposed to do 2020 Toronto Pro, and a lot happened in that window, which we could get into. But and I mean, long story short, I found out I was going to have a little girl, and that really changed a lot for me. Like, I remember when I found out, I went to bed and I did not, like, I had 1,000 things going through my head. I think a little bit of like the guilt, of like, oh my God, I think I've shaved years off my life. Like, you start thinking all kinds of like crazy things, right? Like, I remember I woke up the next day and like I just like I called my investors. I started dumping money into the investments and this and that just for her, right? Like, just crazy things that you normally just don't really consider. I remember I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go through this prep. I'll finish what I started, and then. But the more I was in it, the more I realized like my head was going in 1,000 different directions, and everything that could go wrong during that prep was going wrong. So to me, I kind of took it as a sign of like, okay, I think I need to step back here. And one of the things that just kept going through my mind was, 20-week prep to people like us is 20 weeks, right? We're adults. 20 weeks is a drop in the bucket. In a kid's life, 20 weeks is like 5 years because they evolve so much and they change so much from day to day, week to week, month to month. And I did not want to miss a beat of any of it. And I'm very OCD. I'm all or nothing with everything I do, just by nature. And some people are really good at balance. Some people are amazing at balance. I suck. Oh, my thing is like, I said, I'm either going to drop the ball being a dad or I'm going to drop it being an athlete. And I don't want to drop either. But if I have to pick one, my little girl's going to come first, right? So for me, it was, I'm going to take, 5, 6 years, those formative years, and really invest my time into making a good human. And then, when she's a little more autonomous and has a little, I mean, she's always going to need me, but when she has a little bit more of that independence where I don't have to be there 24/7, I'll get back into what I want to finish. And that's kind of where I'm at now. And like in between then and now, so many other things happened. Like I got sick. I was sick for 2 years. I couldn't train for almost 2 years. Like, it was a plethora of like just a disaster, but I came out on the other side, thank God. So this year's kind of just been about getting back to myself, really. And it's getting back to the things that I love, and finishing and kind of going out on my terms the way I want to go out.
That's crazy.
It's been I wasn't really vocal about it. I didn't really talk to a lot of people about it. I wasn't one of those people that was like posting it on social media and stuff. It's just it was very like personal. But that's just kind of the way I handle things. I usually internalize and just kind of do what I got to do. And also because at the time, they didn't really know what was happening with me. Like, they sent me to internal medicine. There was a whole bunch of different, like, there was a lot of like scary scenarios where I was like, okay, I don't want to jump the gun on anything. And I don't want to be that guy that's like, I have cancer. And, it's like, that's not what it is. Like, so yeah, I just kind of want
a scenario.
Yeah, you know, it's yeah. So I did not want to go down that road, you know, without knowing what was going on. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, thank God, like you know, came out on the other side, and then so yeah, now it's just about getting back to you know what I love, and yeah, it's kind of where I'm at now. Yeah,
Wow. Well, yeah, you went through a lot of freaking stuff, but like, and you haven't competed in a long time. So this like comeback for you is probably going to mean so much. Like, it's going to be so different this
yeah.
time.
And I think the biggest thing between then and now is back then, you know, it started to become a numbers game, right? Where, you know, you'd compete, you'd do well, or you'd compete and you'd fall short of where you want to be. And, you know, it was always, okay, what I need to be bigger, or I need to be this, or I need to be like so you start chasing numbers, you start chasing parameters, you start chasing and of course, I mean, that comes with any competitive sport, right? But I really started to hate chasing numbers. I remember I got up to, you know, I'm like 5'6" on a good day. And I got up to like 200 and almost 250 pounds at one point. I was eating a pound of rice with every meal, you know, 8 to 10 ounces of it was just it was torture, right? And you know, you do it because you love it, and it's part of the game, right? You got to embrace the suck. But you know, those were the days that I remember. I was just like, I was starting to hate the lifestyle, and I think you know, looking back between competitions, between prep, between you know, new goals and all that kind of stuff, I think the one thing I started to lose sight of was enjoying just the daily grind, you know, being grateful for being able to wake up and pursue something like bodybuilding. I mean, it's kind of a luxury of a sport if you think about it.
Oh yeah.
We get you know, we get to wake up and do cardio and eat 5 to 7 meals a day. There's people in countries that don't eat that in a week or in a month, you know. Um, and you know, we have the luxury of being able to go to these super cool facilities with all this high tech equipment and train and you know take supplements and you know
Be around the same people. Like that's
just
a love.
yeah, you know, there's so much. Forgiving my dog's great.
Riley right now.
Heads go.
Press. Yeah.
There she Fueling shouldn't feel like a second job, especially when you're deep in prep, reverse, or just balancing real life. Prep Shop Toronto provides daily ready-made meals and bulk protein options that keep you consistent without spending hours cooking or tracking your meals. When nutrition is handled, your energy is steadier, recovery feels smoother, and your mind isn't stuck in food with math all day. That means less decision making, better training focus, and more mental space to actually live your life outside of the gym. Head to Prep Shop Toronto or email hello@prepshop.ca and use code Eleanor at checkout.
Yay. So just one quick question.
Yeah.
Templar Physique Coaching, where did that name come from? What does that mean?
So I'm glad you asked because I've had a lot of people ask me where it came from. There was people that assumed it had some sort of religious context. There's people that thought it was some far right, like I don't know. I'm like people are associating things with all kinds of weird things nowadays. It really isn't that complicated. So if anybody knows anything about the Templar Knights, you know, they were founded and they were an order that basically was charged with leading pilgrims to the Holy Land, right? So their job was to protect and guide initially, right? They also became the world's like first major bankers, but let's not get into that. I'd love to be I'd love to be a major banker, but no, essentially their job was to guide the pilgrims to the Holy Land, right? So much like a coach would with a client, right? Your job is to guide them to the promise, right? Which is the promise of you know being on stage, reaching your goals, doing it in you know the best and safest manner. And then of course I also loved the discipline that came with being you know a warrior monk essentially, right? Where you were dedicated to one task and you live, breathe, and die by that task, right? So that is essentially very, very synonymous with bodybuilding, right?
That is
Because
almost very old school. I love that old school feel to it.
yeah, so that's where that came from.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's there's no there's no subliminal messages there. It's basically that's it in a nutshell.
I love that though. It actually has a deeper meaning, not like ChatGPT, which is my fitness brand be called. You know what I mean? Like it has a
Yeah,
deeper meaning and it's so old school. I love that.
yeah. Yeah. Plus I think like medieval warriors are just so cool. So look, it's really a combination of the meaning of what that warrior monk is and what they did and how it's synonymous with bodybuilding. And I just think they look cool and it makes a great brand. So that's where that came from. Yeah.
Well, speaking of like the older times, because you've been in this for so long, is there an era of bodybuilding that you like the most?
I've thought about this a lot, and like the grumpy old man in me, like there was a romance to like the pre-social media bodybuilding scene. And don't get me wrong, I think social media has been great for the sport in the sense that it's brought a lot more people into it, and anything that grows a sport, obviously it's going to have its negatives and you're going to have your pros and cons to anything, but I think there has been definitely a positive side to it. And there's some athletes say, well, when that came, a lot of the big contracts went away and it's harder to make money. I would argue it's actually easier to make money nowadays in bodybuilding because there's so many avenues to make money now, especially with the onset of social media, right? You don't have to be an athlete to be a bodybuilder or to be a successful, lucrative bodybuilder anymore, right? There's so many avenues that you can do this, you can live this lifestyle. You don't necessarily have to be a competitor, and there's so many avenues to make it viable, right? Now, like I said, the old grumpy man in me, I kind of liked the old school, when the magazines were still around, and the flex magazines and the muscular development, and that era of bodybuilding to me was really, really special. Bodybuilding was almost, it was celebrated in a different way. I think it was a little more elusive, I think, because you didn't see so much of the pros around. Like nowadays, at the click of a button, you can see what Jay Cutler's doing, you can see what your C-Bum's doing, you can see what Nick Walker's doing, you can see what anybody's doing, and it's great because it does make people personable. But back then, everything from, like Dorian Yates, the Shadow, right? Like you'd see him once a year, he'd show up and everybody was just excited to see what he would look like. And there was kind of a romance to that era, I think. So I definitely enjoyed those years. Of course, like the 80s and 90s, like physique wise, I really appreciated those physiques a lot. Like especially me being like a kind of a smaller statured bodybuilder, when you had like your Rich Gasparis and, your Lee Labradas and just these really streamlined, super conditioned physiques with like, really great posing. I think posing is one of the things that it's starting to make a comeback. And I think it's thanks to the classic physique division that's really starting to emphasize the posing. But I feel like there was an era where posing mattered a little bit more. Then the mass monster era kind of changed that a little bit, where people started coming in and it was just kind of, the physiques were so big and bulky that it just kind of became a show of like hitting most musculars back and forth, and to me, I always liked the posing aspect. I always looked at bodybuilding almost like, this might sound weird, but almost like figure skating, in the sense that
It's an
figure
art.
skating, well, there's an athletic component to it, right? But there's also an artistic component to it, right? And that is something that I always looked at bodybuilding as having, right? And when people say bodybuilding's not a sport, I say, is it any less of a sport than figure skating? Right? Because there is those two components essentially. And this is why I've always gone and I always said, I wish they would judge the posing round, not obviously as heavy as the physique because it's still a physique sport primarily, but I think that posing should be a part of the judging criteria, in my opinion.
For open?
Well, like in posing in terms of like your mandatories, in the sense that you're only as good as how you display your physique. But in terms of your actual posing routine, I think there should be something awarded for that. You know what I mean? There should be something. I know at the Arnolds they had talked about scoring. I think, and I don't know if they had made it a certain part of the judging. I think they had at one point. I'd have to double check, so don't quote me on that. But it would be cool if it really became a part of the judging criteria, in my opinion.
For the girls, a little different, like especially for bikini and wellness,
Yeah, yeah,
is posing's going to make or break you.
100%,
Like you could have
100%.
the best physique, but if you don't know how to display it, you're screwed.
I witnessed a client drop at least 2 spots this year at nationals because the posing was subpar to the girl that won. Physique wise, shoot, this person was by far the crispiest and most well-balanced physique on the stage, but dropped 2 positions easily because of the way she posed. So I've seen it happen. I've seen it where people lose spots because of their posing. Like it, and this is something that I preach to my clients. I always say, listen, posing is not, it's not optional, right? If you play any other sport, if you play soccer, okay, how do you practice? You practice how you play. If you play football, you run plays. Why? Because that's how you play. Bodybuilding is no different. Practice how you play. Your posing should be part of your training daily.
Yeah, I agree. So just to go back, that girl that she has a posing coach, right?
Yes. But I mean, I don't think she invested enough time. And again, it comes back to what I'm saying. You should be posing daily. Daily. It's an emergency. Like like daily posing. It should be part of your training. Just like your cardio, just like every other component. This should be a daily part of your training.
I heard a podcast. I think Laura said something on it on the Cutler cast, and she said you don't have to pose for half an hour to 45 minutes because at the end of the day, 15 minutes is going to be your cap. You're not going to change anything in 15 minutes.
No.
Like you're not going to.
No.
As soon as you go past 15 minutes, you won't be able to pose after that.
But it's the way it registers up here.
It's practice, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you
100%.
go squat, it's like it's habitual, repetitive. Yeah. It's the same as posing. When my posing was absolute crap. Like I didn't know how to pose. Probably same with Nikki. And then like the more that we practiced, we have a really good posing coach, but the more that we practiced and understood what our bodies need, it just clicks.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing too, is posing is very individual. You know, poses, you know, have a criteria, but body mechanics are different for people. Right. So the way I always say the best posing coaches are the ones that can articulate what your body needs to do for your best look.
Yeah.
Right. Because everybody knows what the standard poses are. Everybody knows more or less the way they're supposed to look. But the best posing coaches are the ones that can articulate it to each individual client and find the best way to execute those poses day in and day out.
Yeah, because the way one person hits something might be looking good on them, but if someone else hits it that exact same way, it might look completely different. Like everyone has a different anatomy, a different structure. Exactly.
Yeah,
but
100%.
I completely agree with everything that you said. Even when it comes to posing, I find sometimes I do see at shows though, someone will have an incredible physique, but their posing is off. But like their physique just meets the criteria so much more that they do end up winning over even though their posing's not as good. But I think that posing should be huge in the criteria because it keeps that artistic component to it, like you were saying. Yeah. And I feel like that should be a standard that is staying in the sport, like through and through.
And you know what? You might see those physiques filter through, you know, a level 1 show. But when it comes to, you know, your national shows, and even then, like if you're good enough to win a pro card, then it becomes a game of who has the least amount of flaws, because at that level, everyone's good, right? Yes. So really at that point, it's like, yeah, there's King Kong, Godzilla, like every monster you could think of is there. So really it's going to be a game of like minutia, right? And if your posing is substandard, you might have a slightly better physique than the guy standing next to you, but if he knows how to pose and he outangles you and he really knows how to showcase his physique, guess what?
He's winning.
That's it, right? So again, practice how you play, and we pose. That's what we do. So every day, like you said, 10 to 15 minutes is all it takes. You don't have to be there for hours. Girls, bring your heels. Guys, bring your trunks. Pose 10 to 15 minutes every day. It is non-negotiable.
Yeah. And I feel like you need to, I tell like all my posing girls, you need to start in off season because that's when it's so uncomfortable.
And not just that, but you have the energy for it, right? Like when you're in prep, like I'll never understand people start posing 4 weeks out or 6 weeks out. It's like your brain, like most of the time at that point running on low carbs, like your brain has limited energy. You are not going to register what you're doing. Like you're not. Sorry, you're not. You don't have the capacity, right?
at
So
that
this is
point,
why.
yeah, at that point, it would just be repetition. And even like your body changes so much when it comes to off season and prep. The more you pose, the more you can get used to tweaking things as you get leaner and as you need to change.
100%.
If you're already 4 weeks out and you're just getting started, you're learning this whole new thing that you have to get used to. And it's just
easy to make an adjustment, a small adjustment, versus, but if you have to learn a completely different way, right? You're fighting an uphill battle at that point. And that brings me to another point is make sure that your posing coaches are working for your physique and that they are, and because here's the thing with posing too, is it's really hard to unlearn bad posing.
Yes.
Yes, that's so
And
true.
I have seen some posing coaches that have no business teaching people how to pose. I'm talking people that have done like a transformation show and now you're a posing coach, or you've done like
No,
maybe
nowadays it's
a level 1 show and now you're a posing coach. It's like, what? Like you are providing a disservice to people, and it's really disingenuous,
oh, wow.
so make sure you learn the right way from the beginning, and then of course, yeah, there's little tweaks here and there, whatever, but your posing coach should be professional in what they do.
100%.
Like it's
But
really
some,
hard to unlearn bad posing.
yeah, because someone might have a weak part of their physique, but in order to like be able to explain how to shift and move your body, so this weakness looks like almost a strength on stage, but if they don't get used to how that feels, doesn't become muscle memory and
Of
hard
course.
to let it click. Yeah.
Absolutely. And remember, yeah, I mean, you guys, you don't have a mirror in front of you when you're posing, right? So
Yes. Get the
if you
mirror,
don't,
move it away, take videos here and there, and just get used to what you're feeling and just repeat.
exactly, feeling, you said it. That's the word, feeling. You have to feel your posing. Otherwise,
I love that you said that. So I stopped using a mirror maybe like when was my last show? Probably last August. Like I haven't used a mirror to pose.
Yeah.
So the other day I just wanted to, see what I looked like while I was posing, and I could not pose. I literally couldn't pose. I was so uncomfortable, like staring at myself because I'm not used to it anymore. So
And you're probably wanting to like pick yourself apart and change things. You're like, no, I'm doing it how I need to. Just keep going.
you know what I used to do when I was competing? I'd have a mirror, but I would transition into my poses with my eyes closed.
yes.
And then I would open my eyes and I'd look and I'd be like, okay, what am I looking at? Like, and then I would make adjustments and then I would try to hit it again. Right. Like nowadays, obviously, like you can film it and you can do all this kind of stuff and then you can go back and look at it. And of course, it's great. Back then, it was just like I had a mirror in front of me and it was like, okay, I'm going to close my eyes, strike my pose. Obviously, I can't see my transitions, but when I open my eyes, I would hope to see what I'm supposed to see. Right. Yeah, so that's how I used to practice. Yeah, which I've been posing again for this, this whole transformation and everything, and it's kind of been fun. My body has changed quite a bit in terms of from back then to now, so I can still pose. I'm pretty comfortable with it. It's just kind of seeing your body go through the transitions, right? Where like now I'm in a bit better shape now. I'm nowhere near where I need to be, but like I remember when I first started and I was getting back into posing, it was so uncomfortable and things shaking, and I'd look at myself and be like, I'm a fat fucking loser. Like I'd be so angry at myself, right? But hey, it's part of the process, right? So yeah.
How many clients do you have right now?
Okay, so I usually keep my handful of pros, and then I do not take more than 15 to 20 tops per year because I'm so busy with BioX Performance Nutrition and a few other projects that I'm working on the side in the supplement industry. I'm traveling constantly, that I find if I take any more than that, I would be providing a disservice to whoever I coach. Because the reality is, for me, like I said, I'm an all or nothing person. If I say I'm going to do something, if I take you on and I commit to being your coach, like I will count the hairs on your head for you. That's always been my approach. I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of good coaches in my lifetime. And one of the first things I learned from my first ever coaches, shout out to Dan and Michelle Kennedy in London. They're a couple from London who, if anybody's been in the industry as long as we have, they would know them. They had Elite Physique Coaching, but they were like my first real coaches that I had in the industry. I think a lot of people started with them too. One of the the most fundamental things I really learned from them was their hands-on approach and how much they really cared about their athletes. And for them, it wasn't, it was always about quality. It was always about putting in, like leaving no stone unturned. I mean, they would hold your hand right up until the point you were on stage, right? So I learned that human side of being a coach from them. And that is an approach that I've carried forward with all of my clients, because I want to make sure that for better or for worse, I'm not leaving anything on the table. I always want to make sure that I put 110% into everybody. So for that, I limit my coaches, my clients at 15 to 20 tops, and then I keep my pros. And again, and it's simply for that reason. I don't. I only have a set amount of time, and I'm a dad too, right? So I don't want to leave anybody shortchanged, right? And like I said to you before, I'm all or nothing with anything I do. So I cap it at that, because I know that's a good number for me, where I can invest into all my clients. I can still do everything I have to do for myself, for my family, and be successful. Yeah. So that's basically where I cap it. So I'll every new amateur season, I'll keep 1, 2, 3 spots open, and then that's it.
And for pros, do you have anyone competing this year?
This year, I've got Emily Hammond. We're doing the Atlantic
No, you spoke to
Coast.
her.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing the Atlantic Coast. So we'll see. We just started prep 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
She looks really good. I've always kept in touch with Emily, like here and there on social media and stuff. She's always looked so great. And I always appreciated her and her physique, because she's one of the figure pros that kept a very feminine,
Very.
everything about her. Like,
So
she's incredible.
that's my calling card with women in general is, and it's always been my approach with females is I believe in femininity. Like, just because it's a muscle contest doesn't mean you need to lose that side of it. At the end of the day, I think this is why like WPD is going away, female bodybuilding is going away, because they've lost that femininity. Like I honestly, and I predict, and it pains me to say it, because I have a personal connection with WPD, but I predict, I don't know if it's going to last 5 years. I think organizations like Wings of Strength are probably gonna be the takeover for WPD, and just like they've really done by and large with women's bodybuilding. Just because, and listen, I understand sports progress, people, and at the end of the day, I'm not judging anyone, so don't take this the wrong way. I understand, everyone has their threshold, everyone has their limits. Some people are willing to do whatever it takes to be the best, to win. I just have a notion that in a physique sport for women, I think it should still be extremely feminine. And the other part of that is you have to live in that body for the rest of your life after bodybuilding.
Exactly. And this is just
Bodybuilding is a finite sport.
yeah.
Right. And, all the things that we do, like, let's be honest, guys, this is the health and fitness industry. There's nothing remotely healthy about competing. Right. So that being said, I've always taken it upon myself, especially with females, is to be extremely careful with my approach to training female athletes, because I want them to be able to live in that body after bodybuilding. And I truly value a feminine physique that has the muscle it needs, the flow it needs. Like when I worked with Lauren, last year we did 2 shows with Lauren, and that was one thing that was always on our plate, right? It was, we need to be feminine. Like, she's got a very like old school figure kind of shape, which I love. It flows extremely well. It's not overly muscular, but it's muscular. She's got muscle in the right places. She is a smaller figure girl just by stature. We still cracked top 5 at Atlanta, right? And the reality is, it really came down to balance, to conditioning, and to just being pretty. Like, she still had, she had all the lines. She was extremely feminine, and to me, I value that in female athletes. I that's a big thing for me. And I don't want to be that coach that it's like, yeah, I've got 10 trophies this year, but I've made 7 of those girls gargoyles. That's not my thing, right?
I
And again, like I said, I can respect people that are okay with pushing the envelope. They don't care, whatever it takes. Listen, I don't judge anybody. That's just my MO.
I think
So
also when you're in prep, you're so locked in that you don't really see other people's viewpoints. And for people that, let's say, they don't take a real off season, they reverse for 8 weeks and then they jump into a new prep. Like, that's their constant goal is like, I need to go. I need to keep going. I need to keep pushing. Like, what's
Yep.
next? So I appreciate you saying that because I feel like a lot of people have lost the idea of what is feminine. And femininity could mean something different to everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
But at what point are you pushing it?
Yeah. And like I said, like I have my notion of femininity, and I don't know, maybe call me old school. Like, like I said, I have a certain standard that I like to carry through with my female athletes. And listen, like I said, like there's a time and place to push the envelope. Drugs are a big part of the sport, but I think also understanding how these things work, being conscious with blood work, knowing when to read the signs, like even physically. Sometimes blood work will not tell. It's a snapshot in time. It doesn't tell the whole story. And also, blood work does not show you what's changing physiologically, right? So keeping certain things in perspective, I think, is really important. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize too with drugs and females is it's not just what you take; it's exposure over time, right? So you can be on minimal doses of whatever, name your compound, right? But it's exposure over time. It's using small doses for long periods of time. It equates to using large doses in short periods of time.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And it affects
Right?
everybody differently too, right?
Yeah, 100%. Everyone, like, genetically, right? Like genetically, you're going to have a different response, right? Some people take 5 milligrams of a compound, name it, whatever you want, Primo, Anavar, whatever you want to call it. And they will have extremely pronounced physical side effects. Some people can push that number to 20, 30, 50, 100 and have minimal to none, right? So again, it really, you really need to pay attention. And this is something that I value with a lot of my female clients is communication too, right? Like these are conversations we have before we go down that road, and we say, listen, these are potential side effects for this, and this. I need you to be conscious and aware. I need you to, and I do not prescribe, I suggest. And this is where I think it's important to delineate. I do not prescribe anything. I suggest, and I'm always willing and available to answer any and all questions, because fundamentally it's your body. If you hire me to be your coach, my job and my duty is to be available to answer those questions. It's never because I said so, or just trust the process.
Well,
Yes, trust the process, of course. But I want you to understand, and I want you to be comfortable, and I want you to understand. I want you to have the comfort to be able to ask those questions, and I should be able to answer them. If I can't answer something that you're asking me, that's a red flag. And I think that goes for any coach.
oh,
Yeah.
I don't claim to be the best. I don't claim to be, just because I've been around for whatever. Like there's tons of awesome coaches out there nowadays. Like there really is, because there's a lot of good information. There's more information than there's ever been. There's more education than there's ever been. It's not as taboo as it was, 20, 30 years ago. But these are things that I value and that I put forward. So
That's true. Yeah, that open conversation is really important to have to make
100%.
to let them know, because it's so hard for some athletes too when they're in the moment and they see these physiques that, when comparison comes in, they see these physiques they're going against, and they're like, in the moment they may think like, oh, I don't care, like I'm just gonna push because I want this, like I don't mind if I have this and this that's going on, I don't mind if I get this side effect, but they're only saying that because they're so in the moment versus thinking more long term. But
Yeah.
it's important to know too, like this isn't a race, right? There's no
Marathon.
race to the finish line. And I agree with you when you said that you appreciate these physiques that have like that still remain very feminine, like Laura that just won her pro card, like love her, and Emily, like send them to Eleanor all the time and be like, I really appreciate this, like
Yeah,
love seeing
100%.
this, because it gives a whole different appreciation to it.
Absolutely, yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, that's the way I've always seen it. And listen, like I'm not being hypocritical in any way. Like I got into that mindset when I was competing. Like towards towards the end of, I guess, you know, my competitive days, I got into that whatever it takes mentality. I did things that I always said, I'm not going to go down that road, or I'm not like, I got into that mentality because, again, you start chasing numbers, right? And it becomes an obsession, and it's okay, more of this, and you're always upping the ante, and you're starting to chase. Just, it's like, yeah, I got to hit this threshold, I got to be this weight, I got to be this size, I got to, my arms got to be 20 inches, my like, you start chasing all of these numbers, and it's like, whatever it takes, whatever, it's like more fuel to the fire, and then you get to a point where you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Bodybuilding, yeah.
Well, some people can notice it easily. Some people can't. Like we talked about this in the last podcast we just did. I took 80 milligrams of Novadex. It wasn't Jay's prescription. I just thought I wasn't lean enough. It was my first time taking it. I didn't know what was going on until maybe like 6 months after, and I was like, what did I do? Like, I messed up my own off season because I pushed my hormones so bad. Like, I can't blame anyone but myself.
If it makes you feel any better, I've had a few female clients come to me in the past who were chasing pro cards, and we had a conversation about PEDs, and it's like, okay, what have you done in the past, and what are you currently doing? And we're talking about like someone who's in like start of off season, and it was like, well, here's my list. It's like, and I was just like, you're on this now? Like, where do I go from here? Like, where do I go from here? Like the biggest abuses I see, T3, Cytomel is the one that I see overly abused time and time again, especially with female clients. Oh my God, yes, especially with female clients. I've had female clients come to me and say, yeah, I'm on 50 micrograms of T3. Why? Like, do you have hypothyroidism? Do you have like, no, it's just, it runs in my family. So I'm just being precautious. Well, have you done blood work? Have you no, I'm just being proactive. It's like, no, you're not being proactive. You're being stupid. No offense. Because like, what, that's like saying cancer runs in my family. I'm just going to take some chemo just in case. Like, what?
Just in case. Kill off what might be there.
Like, it's backwards, right? So that's the one drug I've seen, and it's common with female athletes that come to me, and that's the most common one I see abused is Cytomel.
So what do you think is like a reasonable amount?
0 if you don't need it. The reality is, the only time I tend to use T3 in a contest prep is there's 2 scenarios usually. It's if growth hormone's involved. And again, blood work's important. Like even doing like peri-prep blood work, like during your prep to kind of see where things are sitting. Because, growth hormone in certain doses can downregulate your thyroid, but not in all scenarios, right? Like I have clients where they have 0 shoots, right? Or if you're really deep in a prep and, you need to drop carbs or calories significantly, which can downregulate thyroid hormone. At that point, I prefer to implement a prophylactic dose and a physiological dose. So we're talking like 12.5. Sometimes T4 can be an option as well, somewhere between 50 mics. But again, blood work, right? It's not uncommon for me to ask for blood work 8 to 12 weeks into a prep. Especially if I start to see things and it's rare. I like to take a very gradual approach, but sometimes, right, it's warranted. But yeah, typically like that's kind of where I like to see T3 implemented. It's really not an option. I don't agree with it being used as a driver of fat loss, like predominantly as a fat burner. That's not the approach I like to take. I find physiques tend to get extremely stringy. It's not a good look. You can tell a physique that's been like bombed with thyroid hormone. You can see it. It's a different look. It just doesn't have the same pop.
I feel like there's other factors you could start with first before implementing that.
1000%.
Food, cardio.
Yeah, even then, it's the old argument: do I add more cardio or do I pull back food? Right? And nowadays, everybody's obsessed with fatigue management. Fatigue management. It's this like trigger word, right? Like everyone's afraid of doing cardio nowadays. Everyone. It's like the minute you say, okay, well, we're doing 30, 35 minutes of cardio. It's like, oh, oh, I don't know, I have fatigue. What do you mean you have fatigue? This is fucking bodybuilding. Like, what are you talking about? Like, if you have fatigue now, how are you going to feel when you're 5 weeks out, 4 weeks out, when you're getting to that nitty gritty, right? Like, I just feel it's a different, I think like there's a lot of,
There's too much
I don't,
information online. That's it.
yeah, I don't want to call anything or anyone out. I don't want to say the wrong thing. There's some great education platforms out there that are putting out really good information in terms of like how to coach, how to manage bodybuilding. And I just think that there's some trigger words and some things that become, I think, overly emphasized. And I think like fatigue management is one of those things where it's like, yeah, I agree. Fatigue management is important in prep, right? Because it's for hormonal balance, for a lot of different reasons. But guys, it's still fucking bodybuilding. Like, you're going to be fatigued at some points. It's part of the game, right? Like, you got to kind of embrace the suck. And I hate to tell you, but most of the time, like, if you're an enhanced bodybuilder, all these like hormonal things you're worrying about with fatigue, guess what? They go out the fucking window. Like, you know what I mean? That's the reality of things. But going back to what we were talking about with drugs and how you said you're on 80 milligrams of Nolvadex too. AIs are another big thing I see that a lot of women are taking, like aromatase inhibitors, not estrogen receptor modulators, but aromatase inhibitors. And I do not understand for the life of me the application of aromatase inhibitors in female physiques.
You mean-
For starters, women don't aromatize. For starters. We're talking about like Arimidex, like letrozole, things like that. Not to mention, I mean, if you're throwing estrogen out the window, you can say goodbye to fat burning because it's a big component of fat burning in women, right? So you're actually taking away one of the main factors that you need to burn fat. And then if you're on growth hormone too, you need a little bit of that estrogen in there as well. So you're kind of eliminating 1,000%, 1,000%. You know what's funny? Fun fact, Almax was one of my first sponsors, like way back in the day.
Was it? Really?
Yeah. I was with Almax 2013, 14.
Oh, before they actually like.
Yeah, the only reason I left was because I went to go work for Rich Piana, right? Back then.
Told me that. Wait, how
Yeah, so
did you start BioX?
Sorry?
How did you start BioX?
How did I start with BioX?
And what's your position with BioX? Is it
So I'm
sales?
sales manager. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah. So I worked with Rich Piana when he launched 5% Nutrition. So they were launching into Canada, and I was their Canadian national sales manager at the time. So before that, I was working for Popeyes actually. I was managing a couple franchises in GTA North. So I was with them for 4 years. So that's kind of where I made my bones in like on that side of the industry, and that's where I really got to start to understand the business side of things. And then I had this opportunity to work for Rich Piana, which was great. They were not ready for the Canadian market at all at the time. They did not have everything from like licensing, NPNs, and they did not understand how the Canadian market worked. It was very, very difficult. And then, yeah, about a year and a half later, I had this opportunity to come on board with BioX, and that's where it all started. Yeah.
And you've been with them for how long now?
10 years. Yeah.
I mean, like,
People in my position don't usually last this long, but yeah, I've been here 10 years now. Yeah.
wow. Well, you're obviously killing it, but 10 years, I'm sure you've seen the progression of the supplement world. Like, do you find like now it's such like a saturated market? Like, how do you guys
Huge.
stand out? Like, how does
So
that work?
I'm gonna be so transparent with everything here because I think people need to understand. So BioX has been around for 38 years, so almost 40 years. They were one of we're one of the legacy brands in Canada, one of the first true supplement brands in Canada. And I always say, as much as we have a phenomenal product, primarily our proteins. We're really known for our proteins because they taste awesome, they mix well, and they're really, really formulated well. They're good products. I think if we were to launch in today's industry, we would have a very hard time being the brand that we are. And I say that in a like extremely humbly and not, I believe in the protein we have. I believe in the product we have. I would put my protein next to anybody's protein on the market, bar none. I could go toe to toe with anyone, in my opinion. I just think the industry has evolved so much that to launch a brand in today's today's supplement world is an uphill battle for so many reasons. For one thing, marketing has changed substantially. 40 years ago, you could launch a brand through word of mouth, through relationships. There was no social media. You would put ads in the magazines, and then you would build relationships with retailers, and retailers were few and far between back then, right? Nowadays, it's with the online market is huge. Amazon is a big player. Brick and mortar is still, people think brick and mortar is going away. I disagree. I think it's just changed. It's the dynamics of brick and mortar have changed quite a bit. Brick and mortar meaning like actual storefronts. The storefront game has changed tremendously for different reasons, because there's so much more competition, because there's so many brands, right? So it's not the industry where there was 10 or 20 brands, right? And you can basically wheel and deal with everybody. Now, because there's so many brands, right? You could have a phenomenal product, and you walk into a store, and at any given time, let's say you have a pre-workout, you walk into a store and there's probably 30 or 40 pre-workouts on that wall. And as good as your product can be, right? People are going to be like, okay, well, we've got batch 27 on the wall, and I've got, 8 rows wide and 6 rows deep because it sells really well. How do I justify pulling, 3 or 4 of those rows and replacing it with your product, right? Like, where's the demand? Does it look good? Does it look appealing? People eat with their eyes first, right? Does it look cool?
Yeah, especially walking into a supplement store and seeing all of these crazy products. Like you walk in
Right.
and people are just so overwhelmed. And I
Yeah.
think that's why like BioX still does really, really well, because you guys have been around forever, almost like 38 years. And because you guys stay so consistent and you've been around for so long, it's a trusted brand. People are like, oh, I walk into a store. Oh, I've seen that. I know that brand. I'm going to get it. Versus like walking and seeing all this stuff. And
Yeah. So that's what I
it's
mean
hard.
though, is like we are very much a legacy brand, right? And like we've been built on the fact that people recognize the quality. That we've been around for so long. We've been consistent in terms of the product we deliver. And this is
Showing
why
face at shows too.
I'm sorry.
And showing face like at shows and stuff too.
Yeah,
That's
that's a me thing.
keep it going. Keep it going.
And you know what? Honestly, that here's the thing. So we're an extremely humble company when it comes to marketing, much to our demise, I would say, to be perfectly honest. I would love to spend 10 times what we spend on marketing, because I truly believe that we are behind the 8 ball when it comes to marketing. I am fully have zero issues saying that.
I agree.
But again, it goes back to the fact that the company was not built on that kind of marketing. Dave, the owner of the company, is still a guy that sits in the warehouse 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, making the product. We're kind of a big, small company. Like for the size and the amount of business we do, we're extremely small in terms of the actual organic of the company. So I think that in terms of marketing and exposure, there's a lot more we could be doing, but it really comes down to budgeting, right? And in today's market, especially being a protein forward company, as you guys have probably noticed, the cost of protein have gone
Oh my God. Max, now it's
absolutely insane.
$200 for a 5 pound, and it's
Yeah.
going up again.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're aware of the reasons, but if you want, I can give you a quick explanation. I'll give you the Coles Notes version.
Yes, I do want to pick your brain on that, but I do want to say one thing about the marketing thing. I do love that you guys like you want to kind of grow in the marketing department, but I also appreciate that BioX isn't doing what like you see every other supplement brand doing. There's not a million ambassadors. You don't see
Wow.
use code whatever on Bio like for like 50, 100, like they're kind of just bringing people on. Like I don't know. For me, like I like that old school way of getting the name and trust out there in a different
You
way.
know
Like
what?
brings more authenticity.
One thing that I've really been trying to pull for when it comes to, and again, like I have a small marketing team that I hired that we work with, and God bless them. Like oof, with the resources that we give them, they really do their absolute best. So shout out to Paul and Brittany; they're phenomenal people. But one thing I've really been trying to pull teeth for is I don't need 50, 60, 100 ambassadors. I've always been have 5 lions, not 500 sheep. I've always been a big believer in that. And one thing I'm really trying to pull for is I want athlete to be able to grow with the brand and really support those like handful of athletes. I would rather have 5 or 6 athletes that, hey, you know what, you're competing this year, cool, we'll pay for your shows, we'll pay for your stay or your registration or whatever it is. I would rather focus on that. And like we're not there yet. Like we have a handful of athletes that we kind of support in that sense. But for me, I would rather have a smaller team that we really take care of, and vice versa. Like when we need stuff, hey, you know what, we need representation here. We need you to go and do an event or something, that they're 100% available to do their due diligence, right? Because at the end of the day, it has to be an altruistic relationship, right? It's not what we can do for you only. It's got to be what can you do for us as well, right?
It's a
One
team.
hand washes the other, both your hands wash your face, right? It's the old Italian saying. But that's,
I like that one.
yeah, it has to be that way. Otherwise, you're going to have a revolving door of people that are just, hey, what can I get from you? What can I get from you? Right. And unfortunately, like that is the one downside to the whole social media thing, going back on that is, everyone's an ambassador or an athlete for this or for that or whatever. And it's just take, 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 take. And there's so many options nowadays. Right. Whereas, back in the day when you had a contract, it mattered, right? It usually came with some sort of monetary support, not just product. And and it was a different industry, right? So again, pros and cons, like I said before, pros and cons. But one thing I'm really, really trying to push for is to be able to focus on quality over quantity, right? And have those people that are willing to really, really represent and be good ambassadors for the brand and just help them more. To me, that makes way more sense, right? Have a long-term relationship rather than a revolving door, right? And yet some people don't see the value in that. They say, well, you might as well just get what you can get and then, just on to the next and just pay them the least amount for those snippets of representation. But to me, that doesn't make sense because I've never been able to represent or put my name behind something that I don't believe in, or I'm not willing to go out there and do everything I can for myself and for whatever I'm representing, right? That's just my philosophy. I could never do that. So I don't want to be a brand that just has a revolving door, right? I'd rather be a brand that it's like, hey, you know what? I believe in you, so we're going to grow together. To me, that's so much, there's so much more value to that, right?
Yeah, like you see these like big pros jumping from one supplement company to the next. And the only because I always get asked, like, why are you with Allmax?
Yeah.
That's the one big question that I've been with them for 3.5 years. Like I'm
Yeah.
loyal. I've always been like that.
Yep.
But every year I continue to grow with them. Every time they ask me for help, I'm there for the events if I need to be. Then
Yep.
in return, every time the contract comes, I have a conversation with my manager. Hey, this is what I've done this year. Is there any way I could get more? And
Who's managing? Is it still Aaron?
Todd,
Okay. All right. Is Aaron still there, or did he leave, or did he
I think
retire?
Aaron's still there. Yeah, but he's not
Okay.
directly like sales for me.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Because like I was saying to you before, I was sponsored by Allmax like way back, like 2011, 12, 13, 14, around there. I was with them for a few years, and Aaron was my guy. And like I said, the only reason I left is because I went to go work for 5%, right? So obviously conflict of interest. But yeah, I was with Allmax back then. They always treated me really well, honestly.
I
So
like
nothing bad to say about Allmax.
I will say though, one thing that I do see with Allmax that I don't like is I agree with you. They are literally grabbing any single person nowadays. And sometimes it can be so frustrating, especially because like I'm over here and I've been with the company for XYZ. So it's just like, what makes me any different than somebody else? And I can say, I'm loyal. I've been with this company for 3.5 years. I
Yep.
see products day in and day out. You tell me what a product is. I can't use any of their like Isoflex proteins because they're dairy. I think we talked about this.
I was just gonna mention Isoflex. Okay, my pet peeve with Allmax was they changed the formula. Isoflex was such a good protein for so long, and I
It's
get
such
it,
an OG one too. It's like
but
the
they
one
went.
only see.
It used to be 100% cross flow, microfiltered isolate, right? Like cold temperature processed. It was great. Now, the primary protein, if I'm not mistaken, look at your label. I think it's ion exchange, which is chemically processed. It's a different form of isolate, and it can actually denature the amino acid profile. Yeah, I was so upset when I saw that. Yeah.
Wait, I wanted to say, like, going back to, I kept bugging them. I said, I can't drink the freaking protein.
Yeah.
And I was getting so upset because it's like, how can I promote a brand that I can't even use all the products?
Yeah.
6 months later, Todd comes up to me. I have a gift for you. They came out with, what's it called? The beef isolate protein. Like, is this because of me? Like, I did that? Me, this like little fish? And he goes, well, you kept bugging us. And we realized that this is actually missing in the market.
Yeah.
You know, it's
So I want to touch on the beef proteins for a second.
okay.
And this is not to slight any company, but I will say one thing about the beef proteins. Now, this kind of ties into what we were talking about with what's happening in the protein game in general in the industry. So to the Coles Notes version, basically, there's a couple factors that have influenced the prices of protein. So they flipped the pyramid in the US, right? So they've emphasized protein. Finally, protein is kind of at the top of the nutritional recommendation, right? Which is great. It's phenomenal. Now, GLP-1s, obviously, big thing. So anyone on GLP-1 is obviously overemphasizing protein, rightly so. Now you can agree or disagree with GLP. That's another conversation we can have. But the demand for protein has gone through the roof. Now, wherever there's demand, because we live in a extremely capitalistic society, which is great, God bless, there is innovation. So all of these companies, all the big conglomerates, and all of the food industry. So we're talking everything from grocery snacks to franchises like Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, Tim Hortons, all the big guys. They're all getting into the protein game. Yes. Now, protein, whey protein in particular, is a byproduct of cheese making. Okay. It makes up 20% of the protein in milk. Okay. So then that has to be refined, filtered, all that. So it's a small amount of the protein in milk. And so unless you're making more cheese, you're not making more whey. So there's a finite amount of whey that's being processed on the market, right? Now, they are all buying from the same suppliers that we buy from. And the problem is they are extremely rich. So they can come in and say, hey, you know what? You got 20 truckloads. We're going to take 20 truckloads. So the small fish, ironically, the small fish being us, the supplement industry, we're kind of left to bid on what's left, really. So it's one thing to be able to say, protein costs X amount. And yeah, I guess we can buy it. Now the game is, can you get protein? It's not what you're paying. It's, can you get it? If you can get it, you're winning right now. And you're bidding and you're paying handsomely. So we're talking about a product that we used to pay $4 to $6 a pound for. Now we're paying upwards of 20 to 23 bucks a pound for. And that's just the raw material. That's without any, that's no packaging, no labeling, that's no sweeteners, no flavoring, no emulsifiers. That's without shipping, right? You gotta factor in, and then obviously fuel costs are through the roof. So all those components are adding to the final cost of the product, right? So this is why protein has gone so high. So a lot of companies are coming up with alternatives, right? So you've got your vegan proteins and you've got your beef proteins. Now, do I have a problem with beef protein? No. I have a problem with beef protein when it's marketed as a recovery protein. Because the reality is most beef protein in the market is just collagen. It's glorified collagen. And the problem with collagen is the amino acid profile in collagen is extremely weak. So whey's value is in the branched chain and essential amino acid profile, particularly the amount of leucine. So a 35-gram serving of isolate roughly has about 3 grams of leucine per serving, right? So as you know, leucine is your anabolic switch activator, your mTOR receptor activator, right? So more leucine, more anabolic response, right? The average beef protein on the market has about 800 to 900 milligrams per serving of leucine and is void of tryptophan as well, which is an essential amino acid. So my problem is, and listen, I understand there's people that cannot do whey. So by no means am I saying my way or the highway. See what I did there?
Oh, that's a good one.
But what I am saying is, I wish companies would. If you're going to put out a beef protein for recovery, maybe bolster it with some free-form amino acids. Give it something to make it a little bit more viable for people that want that recovery aspect from it. That's just my opinion. Otherwise, if you're using it as an additive to a meal, if you're adding it to something else to make it a little more complete, listen, totally, I'm on board with it. And again, like I said, not knocking people that need it because they can't do whey. I'm not saying whey is the only, but it is for when it comes to recovery and muscle building, amino acid profiles matter. It really does. So that's my only knock with like the beef proteins. This is kind of why we haven't really jumped on that bandwagon. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about. I can't get behind something that I can't sell.
That
Make
makes
sense?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So,
love that authenticity, not just putting a product out
yeah.
just to say that you have it or because other company may have it as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you fill a niche, right? Like we tried it when the New Zealand game, the New Zealand whey thing was big. The grass fed whey thing was big. We did a grass fed for a while, and we just found like our customer didn't really care. Like it was like less than 1% of my sales. So the reality was, it's like, okay, we're spending more money because New Zealand whey costs more. Again, that's a skew where I don't really see a benefit either. Like people talk about New Zealand whey because it comes from grass fed cows and whatever, but it's like, okay, I compare it to grass fed beef. Okay, grass fed beef. The benefits of grass fed beef are in the fats, because essentially the fats are going to contain more CLA, like more things like that. But where's the fat in a whey protein?
It's true.
Okay.
And if you want to argue it, and if you want to argue antibiotics or hormones or whatever, like we're talking about things that are not orally bioavailable, and to really detect any kind of like bovine growth hormone or anything like that, you need like mass spec equipment to be able to even detect it. It's really not an issue, guys. It's like your water has more chemicals than the protein you're taking, right? So that's the reality. To me, it's a big marketing gimmick. I might get lit on fire for this one, but I really don't care. I will die on that hill.
Yeah, you're like, I have my opinion, I'm set on it. What would you say your best or like favorite BioX product that you guys have? Like, what's your go-to?
I'm a creature of habit, honestly. Our chocolate caramel fudge protein is just it just hits in a way that no other protein hits, especially if you have a sweet tooth. And a lot of people tend to get that sweet tooth during prep. It's a great protein. You can use it to make a Ninja Creamy. You can mix it into yogurt. Just have it on its own, and it really takes that edge off. It's like dessert in a shake. It's a really, really good protein. That's when I have a sweet craving, that's the one I go to. Otherwise, our chocolate peanut butter to me is that's my everyday. The chocolate peanut butter for me is my everyday protein.
That's a staple for sure.
In terms of like fun SKUs, and this kind of ties into what you were saying, Eleanor, about how you kind of approached Allmax and said, listen, I can't use your protein. So when I first started with BioX, so our protein 32 bars, which you guys see me sampling all the time at shows, right?
Yes.
So it's a hit of a bar because it's 32 grams of protein. It's the highest protein bar on the market. Only 1 gram of sugar. Phenomenal
Nikki,
product.
he's selling
But
us.
Sorry?
I said, Nikki, he's trying to sell us.
That's right.
Love
Always
it.
a salesman, right? But when I started with the brand, I could not eat those bars, and the reason was it was the only SKU that we used to outsource. It was the only thing that we didn't make ourselves because we didn't have the equipment to make the bars at the time. So we're going back to like 2015. So one of the things we did was in 2019, we bought all of the equipment to be able to make the bars ourselves. Because the problem back then was when you're buying from a major manufacturer that's making your product, you have a limited amount of ingredients that you can choose from, and you have to order large quantities. So like you'd have to order 40 to 50,000, units. And so you get stuff sitting in a warehouse for months before you sell it. So bars, you know how it is. If you don't eat them within the first few months, they start to get a little hard. And then, they had a lot of things like maltol in there, a lot of sugar alcohols, and like they would destroy my gut. Destroy. So I couldn't eat them. I'm like, listen, they're great. They taste great. I can't sell them. I can't eat them. Right? I can't. So when we bought the equipment ourselves, we reformulated a lot of the components. We made them so much softer. We pulled out all the sugar alcohols. We switched to, sugar-free chocolate coatings, stevia sweetened. Again, we reduced the sugar content to 1 gram. The protein profile in there is all milk proteins. There's no soy, none of that kind of stuff. So it's a very, very good quality protein. And it became a very, very viable SKU, both in terms of the profile, the taste, the texture. It just everything improved on it. And I could stomach them no problem now. So again, it goes back to like, the viability of a product too really comes down to like, can you sell it? Can you push it with integrity? To me anyway. And so the protein 32 bars are phenomenal. We also have the bites that are basically, it's a bite-sized version of our protein bar. And those come in birthday cake flavor and in dark matter brownie. Those are great SKUs. I keep one, full disclosure, on my desk when I'm working.
Of course.
If you need like a quick pick me up and you need something to just take the edge off, or you got a little hole in your stomach or something, it's it's about 80 calories, 16 grams of protein,
You're selling us.
So that would be your go-to.
right? So like little things like that. We also came up with a creatine brownie this year, which is actually pretty cool. Unlike a lot of unlike a lot of the creatine gummies and things like that on the
Yeah.
market, one of the problems with the gummies is they tend to be, because to make the gummy you have to heat it, right? And the problem with heating it is you're actually denaturing the creatine. You're turning it into creatinine, right? Which is not something you want to put in your body. So
Especially if you're training hard, that's already really high.
yeah, so we made a brownie basically, and it's a super soft, like it has all the texture and flavor of a brownie. Only 1 gram of sugar, and it's got 5 grams of creatine mono in it. And the way we make the dough, it's not heated to a temperature that denatures the creatine at all. So you're getting all the benefits of the creatine. Yeah, and we kind of had the idea. Think of all the cognitive benefits of creatine, all the studies that have come out now. Everybody wants creatine nowadays, and imagine taking a boomer, or a geriatric that wants to start taking creatine and get them to take 20 grams of gritty powder mixed
Like,
into
what's
like,
the steroids you're giving me?
right?
God, don't get me started.
But they're the generation that'll sit every day at some point and have a coffee or a tea with a muffin or a brownie or a cookie or something like
Or
that.
5 grams of sugar in their coffee.
Right? So get them to sit down and say, hey, you know what? Have a couple of these brownies. You get your creatine fix, you get your sugar fix, even though there's no sugar, and it goes great with a coffee or with whatever. So it's great for people like that as well, right? So it's kind of a functional food, and you're getting the benefits of the creatine mono in there. So
We love.
I like that. That's smart. I've never seen that.
yeah. So I've been sampling those out too at the show. I think you ladies were dieting. So
We're always
Yeah.
we're always on plan,
yeah. Yeah. Hey, I can respect that.
So
Yeah.
okay, we want to kind of try to wrap stuff up, but
Sure.
if you could go back to yourself when you first started working in the supplement space or even
Yeah.
coaching, what would you tell yourself, or something that you wish more people understood about the supplement industry?
As a vendor, you know what? I think when I first, like I said, the industry's changed so much nowadays to when I started. Honestly, I wish I had been more on the e-commerce game when I started. Because everything's really gone the way of like e-commerce is a huge part of this business now. And like I'm not like a super techie kind of person. I wish I had invested maybe a little more education on that side of things. I think it would have probably helped my business when I started a little more. In coaching, honestly, I don't think I would have changed anything. Only because I've always kind of I've looked at this as a game of improvement always. So don't ever pretend you know everything. I've never had that pretense of knowing everything. I've always been confident in what I do, and I mean you have to be.
Yeah.
I just to kind of give you an idea, like my first 5 years of coaching, I didn't charge a penny, and the reason was because I said I have all this knowledge. I've always invested in learning as much as I can, but I don't know everything, and it's like taking a surgeon, fresh out of medical school and just throwing. There's a reason why they intern for so many years, because you can have the formal knowledge, but if you don't have the practical and you don't understand, like the best coach is the best troubleshooter. It's not just knowing what the numbers are on paper. It's understanding how to troubleshoot when those numbers don't add up or when certain things are happening. Bodies are individual, not science. The body doesn't always do what's predicted on paper. So the best coach is the best troubleshooter. So understanding how to troubleshoot was a big part of my learning process. So like the first 5 years of coaching, I didn't charge a penny. And for me, it was listen, like, I promise I won't kill you. Like, I'll take you on as a client, and if this is your goal, whatever. And like I was largely successful doing it that way. And then when I was extremely versed and confident with my process, then I was charging a little bit of money, and just to kind of make it worth the travel and all this kind of stuff. And as things went on, I got better and better and better and better. I managed to get a natural athlete to the Olympia. That was kind of like a feather in my cap for me. I was extremely happy and grateful that I was able to get there.
Yeah, but the difference between you and like I feel like nowadays all these coaches is because everyone's a coach now, right? But the difference from what I hear is you're doing it because you care, not because you care about the money. And I think that's the big difference that situates you from a coach and from a business person, right? Like there's nowadays there's 2.
Yeah. And listen, I do not have a problem with people who do this full time. I don't. Genuinely. There's a plethora of great coaches that do this full time, and you should charge what you're worth. I have zero issues with people charging money. I think you should, because if you're good, don't do something for free. But
That's how you gain your experience at the beginning, and doing it for free. You're
100%,
gaining your experience, and then you're building your value. And you
100%.
keep increasing as you go along.
100%. And you know what? Like the money that I invested in myself too, and like the years that I worked with like really great coaches and mentors, I learned a lot. And I've been in this game for a long time, right? Like nearly 2 decades. And so, I mean, when you hire me as a coach, like I'm not cheap,
You shouldn't
but
be.
but the reality is, you're paying for all of that experience, and you're paying for my anecdotal knowledge and my formal knowledge. You're not, you know what I mean? So like there's value to what you're getting. So like I always tell people, like if you go with a cheap coach because they're newer, because they're a numbers game coach, and you're spinning your wheels for 6 months, is it really cheaper?
Exactly.
Right? It's like buying a 92 Honda Civic with bald tires that hasn't had an oil change and expecting to drive cross country, versus getting a brand new vehicle that's, has insurance, and I mean, not insurance, that has warranty, and all the bells and whistles, and you'll never have an issue, right? You'll get to where you're going. It's more expensive, but you're going to get to where you want to go, right? So there's a lot of great coaches nowadays, and none of them are cheap. But again, I don't think price should be the deciding factor on who you hire. I think there's got to be value in what you're paying for, right?
Quality over quantity.
1000%. So again, this is why I take a small amount of clients, because I want to deliver quality. It's not
Yeah.
about quantity; it's quality.
You got to know what you're investing into in that person's experience and know what you're signing up for.
Yeah.
But I feel like more people need to know that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
And thank you.
I feel like this was great. We dove into everything we wanted to when it comes to the supplement side of things, as we haven't really gotten someone's perspective, like being deep in the industry for so long and all the changes that come through, and like female bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding too, the different appreciation for that, the old school bodybuilding vibes, like keeping that appreciation. Like I really loved everything that we talked about today.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming and being here. I think what I'll do is I'll put all of your information in the link,
Yeah.
your Instagram.
Sure.
I don't know,
For sure. I appreciate it.
coaching link. So I'll put everything in
Sure.
below if you just send that to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, next time I see you, lady, I'm launching a new energy drink. So
You did
I'm
tell me
under,
that, yes.
yeah. So it's under my Templar banner. So I'm actually working on a coaching app. So basically, it's going to be for Gen Pop, for like people who are not, like, they don't need a coach like us, where they're like, okay, it's a $400 a month commitment kind of thing or whatever. They're not competing, but they do need accountability. They need something that helps them, build their programs, their training programs, their diets, their supplement protocols. There's within the app, there's links to like all the PubMed studies and things like that. So it's actually pretty comprehensive. Yeah. So it gives people knowledge too. It's not just like here, I'll build a program for you and take it. So it'll be like a monthly subscription type thing, but I'm coupling it with my energy drink. Basically, it'll be a QR code on the can. You can scan it, takes you to the app, sort of thing. And it's just designed for people who want just accountability and affordability, right? So yeah, so I'm just trying to put out I'm trying to put out value to people,
Yeah.
right? And like I think it's important in this industry. I've always believed anything you invest in your life, right? If you have passion, right, it'll come back to you in other ways. And try and leave whatever you put yourself in better than you found it. So
Amen to that. That's a perfect closing.
yeah.
Everybody watching, if you guys could give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. If you're on YouTube and on Spotify, you can follow us, and I'll put all of Alessandro's links below. Thank you again so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me anytime.